to the Video Confidence Connect. Apologies for that. We have been experiencing some major internet connection issues over the past week. I have no idea why. I thought we were on a very secure line, and I guess we weren't, but back to it. So, as I was discussing before we got cut off, and that is fine, we are here now. So I had this person who was a potential lead for me, who wanted to branch out on their own and grow their personal brand. Over the past 20 years, they have organically grown their personal brand, but not really intentionally, more just stuff that they've done over time. And they wanted to ask me, with now this new direction, new time and energy that they're putting into growing their personal brand, where would they start? And my initial prompt or question for them was not where should you start, but what does your audience need? Who are your audience? Why do you want to serve them? And what is your motivation to do so? Because it's always about the audience. That's why even though this weekly opportunity to chat with you virtually, face to face, I do as an opportunity to, market myself and grow my own personal brand. I also mainly do it to be able to offer a opportunity to answer people's questions as easily as I can without burning myself out, because that is what I want to do. I want to serve the people that I focus on, that I want to work with. And for example, the type of people that I want to attract. Now, of course, this doesn't have to be you to a T. These are just the people that I tend to attract with the way that I market myself, the way that I network, and the way that I draw people in. So for example, the audience that I essentially pitch myself to are usually small business owners or ex-corporatees who are moving into a small business setting where they are growing their personal brand. I work on their marketing side, being both their mentor and a guide to help them with marketing themselves, usually on a diminished either timeline or budget or energy that they have to devote to marketing themselves. The people that I work with are usually women or non-binary folk who are based in Australia and who are usually around between 45 to 55, which seems to be the demographic that I'm working with at the moment. But of course, this doesn't necessarily have to be the case. And I work with people who want to serve and who want to do better. They just don't know how. They just don't know where to market, and they don't know where to put their energies first. Because as you can probably imagine, with growing yourself, your small business or your personal brand, it is still a trial and error endeavor at the end of the day. A good quote that I heard recently was, and a quote that is sticking with me, it is surprising that trial and error in all its ways still includes error. And that is something that has hit myself and a lot of people that I work with in the sphere of, oh damn, there actually is error in trial and error. And when you are starting out, and this will carry on to today's podcast episodes that I will be discussing with you, is just because someone who maybe you admire or is a role model for you, the way that they have achieved their level of notoriety or their level of market saturation, if you will, if we're getting into marketing terms, the way that they have done that is because they're not an overnight success. No one ever is an overnight success. They have worked incredibly hard. They've put their customers first and made the decisions around the type of customers they want to attract and the people they want to serve. That is how they have grown. And of course, I'm not saying that as someone who is growing a business or a personal brand that you need to stick wholeheartedly with this customer base or this group or this avatar that you have made for yourself. You don't have to stick with them wholeheartedly if you're finding that it's not working for you, because at the end of the day, you are the one putting in the time and the energy and the effort to help these people grow. And if that is something that is draining you as opposed to fulfilling you, then we need to pivot to a different group. Pivot to, be able to pivot yourself to be able to both balance working for the customer as well as working for yourself. Those two things that we need to balance. So again, I went on a bit of a tangent from one question, and here we are again. This is what usually what happens when I have conversations at networking events, to be perfectly honest. We have questions and we have a back and forth conversation. I make sure to ask questions and we, have a bit of back and forth and engage. And we always end up in a weird spot in the conversation that we never really intended to when we first asked that question. For example, like, how do I branch out on my own? Where do I start? But I hope for yourself, if you are looking to break away from the corporate life, and even though I have consulted and worked very adjacent or very close to people in corporate, I am not myself someone who has ever been in the corporate career, mainly because no one would hire me. And I've never really had the opportunity nor wanted the opportunity to work in corporate because I like to make decisions for myself. And that is why we are running a small business and we are here nonetheless. So with today's day, we might have some pretty short podcast episode questions today, or we might just have one podcast episode one podcast episode recording today before we move on to the other things that we were discussing. Today's episode is going to be talking about the templates that are guides that are meant to be broken. And I'll describe what I mean more in today's podcast. All right, ready? Let's go. Templates are just guides that are meant to be broken. Welcome to the Video Confidence Coach cast with me, your host, the Video Confidence Coach, Zoe Wood. Welcoming you to today's podcast where we're going to discuss, again, a story that is prompted from my conversations this week, and we're going to go into a little bit more in depth into the mindset and maybe something that might be useful for you when you're looking for templates or guides or rules online, and when you hear from marketers or people in spheres of interest that you're currently engaging with, and they give you either a template or a set of rules to follow. Everything is all made up. We can always bend and break these rules and templates to our own needs. But before I begin, I want to acknowledge the traditional custodians on the lands on which I work and play, the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation, the traditional custodians and owners on the land on which I conduct my business. I stand with them in their fight against injustice, always was, always will be Aboriginal land. So let's get on to today's topic. So, as always, as when I record these podcast episodes, it's usually once a week during my Video Confidence Connect live stream. Again, those who are watching live, hello, feel free to comment below. All my podcast episodes usually get prompted by a story that I've had that I have talked to either a client of mine, a prospective lead, or at a networking event. And this particular week, I was at a networking event, a virtual one based out in Brizzy. And I met someone, so we have a group of us in a Zoom room. There was about 15 of us, and we got put into these breakout rooms, which are individual screens with one or two other people, or maybe three other people in the room. And I was paired with one of my past clients, which we did some work together back in 2020, which is almost going to be 5 years ago now. And what we essentially got into this topic of checking in how they were going and how their life has changed since I last chatted with them. And it looked like that they had made a very large pivot in their life, that they had stopped working with the company that I was working with them in, and they had some babies, and now they're coming back into the industry, but working specifically with startups and the work they were doing. And she wanted to thank me wholeheartedly for the template that I gave her. And I said, I love you, but which one? Because when I work with leads and work with clients, both mainly with my coaching and consulting clients. I have a lot of tools, a lot of IP that I use to help break down these larger concepts, especially when you're taking on a new project and you just need to find a place to start. And this tool that I like to use a lot, which you can definitely see on my website and on my YouTube channel, is my customer avatar template. And she said to me, she thanked me so wholeheartedly for giving her the template and also giving her the tutorial on how to break it down and how to use this to her advantage. But she wanted to reiterate, and she said, but I had to adapt it to my own needs. And I'm so sorry for tweaking it and breaking the template because I just needed to make this work for what I needed to. And I had to stop her there and say, don't apologize. A tool is meant to be used, even if it breaks. And a line that we eventually came out of our 5 minutes together, because of course this was our networking event and we were going between rooms. The tidbit that we came out of it both together was, rules are meant to help guide us, but they are there to be bended and maybe even broken. And that is a mentality that I wanted to bring in today's podcast episode, discussing about when you are not sure where to start on a project, or you need to achieve some sort of either way of thinking, way of doing a project or an activity or an action. And there are people, now of course these could be marketing gurus or people outline, or just people who have gone through the work of doing something that you're about to do yourself to hopefully make things easier. There's a reason why tutorials exist. There's a reason why step-by-step guides exist. They have existed for a very long time. But I want to stress to you that especially when coming across these out in the wild, or maybe they're even advertised to you either on social media or in your email list or however, that adapting these templates for you to use, because at the end of the day, these tools are tools. They are meant to be used to help you gain the knowledge, to help you achieve what you want to achieve in the way that you need to achieve it. These are supposed to be used by you, and they are supposed to provide a foundation. That is why they are usually quite generalized, and usually templates and tools are usually quite first or low stake type introductions into the knowledge that you're trying to acquire, because they're supposed to be designed for everyone to use, or at least the people who are interested in the subject that you're trying to engage with are using. And they are trying to provide a foundation for you to then go off and find more details about that particular subject or that particular, focus or whatever you're doing. And that's what I don't think a lot of people quite understand, especially when it comes to coming across templates, or you're hearing these, for example, 5-3-1 rule, or these various different ways of constricting information to be able to make it easier for you to, again, consume, format in your brain, and then spew out again, either teaching, for example, like in a podcast or a live stream, or maybe even teaching your team if you're working with a team, or maybe teaching your higher ups something that is important about how you do something or why you do something. So I want you to think about, when you come across these tools, it is okay to break them. It is okay to bend and break them. Of course, doing your best to kind of keep the original off to a side. So if something breaks completely, you can always go back to the original and go, okay, you were here, you worked, maybe I might follow you a bit better next time. It is important to evaluate and adapt them to suit your unique needs and situations. Blindly following formulas or templates or rules without any critical evaluation of your specific circumstances can stifle your own creativity and adaptability. Because again, these things are supposed to help you. These tools and these guides are supposed to help you achieve whatever you're wanting to achieve with them. So use them as the starting point that they're intended to be. Now, of course, for a lot of people who are working in industries who provide these tools are usually trying to keep them as their starting point, so then you can go and maybe hire them for more money, of course, than just free, or maybe just your email address, to help achieve what you want to achieve. And if that is not in the cards for you right now, maybe because you don't have the time, the money, or the energy to be able to afford that, using these tools as the starting point that they're intended to be is also okay. Being able to use them to personalize and personalize your experience on growing your personal brand. I know I said personalize a fair few times in that section there. Use them as the starting point that they're intended to be, but don't be afraid to break them either. Sticking to a formula or a template wholeheartedly isn't going to be beneficial to you. And of course, I have said this multiple times over today's podcast. But the rules at the end of the day are meant to guide us. So that example that I can come with over this past month is I'm working with someone on their marketing, and they have a lot of different facilities. They have 5 to 10 different things that they do in their business. And as you can imagine, that overwhelms them, but also overwhelms me when I'm trying to do my best to support them and trying to give them some sort of direction. So the way that we brought this all back down, and of course, this is what we do every time, is we bring it back to the customer. We bring it back to the client. We bring it back to, who are you doing this for? Why do they care? And then we start with that. And I discussed with them, when it came specifically to their social media, they do get a lot of traction and a lot of leads generated specifically from their Facebook page, but also their Instagram page as well. And they've slowly acclimatized to both, even though social media wasn't really their forte and continues not really to be something that they enjoy doing. And I have discussed with them how, hey, once we get to a stage where we know what we're doing, we know what we're focusing on, from there we can start getting other people to do this work for us. If that is what you want to do. And again, you have now the tools and the knowledge to be able to clearly help someone who is going to help you with social media. So I digress. But when I talk to them about some rules, so say, for example, the 5-3-1 rule for pieces of content, they were quite surprised. It's like, oh, you're giving me these rules and I have to stick to them. No, these aren't necessarily something that you have to stick to. It's just a foundation. So the 5-3-1 rule, off the top of my head, it is a way of breaking down posts that for every 5 posts you do, 3 should be educational and bringing new people into the sphere of what you do and how you do it. One should be a very pinpointing selling post, specifically talking about the current project or campaign that you have going on, like explicitly talking about your current campaign. And then the other one left can be fairly free in regards to what you want to do with that particular post. Now, I'm not saying that this particular rule has to be followed. So what I'm saying, for every 5 posts that you have, 3 should be educational, 1 should be selling, and then of course the other one can be whatever you want it to be. And that gives you enough rules and that flexibility to be able to create those 5 pieces of content over a week, over 2 weeks, whatever your schedule is like, because this enables you to, again, start a foundation, start a starting point, break down this wall of overwhelming information specifically about social media, but marketing in general, into really easy breakdownable tools that you can think about yourself, put it into a system and a process that you can in turn give to someone else if you have that ability, or just remind yourself whenever you have to do social media. Like, for example, for a couple of my clients that I usually don't get people on board to do social media anymore. I just help my legacy clients out from time to time. And we do social media once a month. Again, following these basic foundation rule sets that we've used and we've thought about over time to the point where it's all second nature at this point. We guide the ship. My apologies. We guide the ship in a particular direction, but we know that we have to do 3 posts a week. The posts have to be client focused, and one of them has to be specifically aimed at our corporate clients. Boom, done. Cool. We've broken down this really big overwhelm of what do we put on our social media of, every single month we know exactly what we're going to put on our social media. And breaking down this even more is, don't take what anyone says as the gospel truth. Now, I am not religious myself, but what I mean by the gospel truth is that what someone for example, someone who may have a larger audience than you, maybe more influence than you, or is just further along in their journey than you, what they say isn't always going to apply to your situation. Because the way that they grew online for example, 10 years ago is not the current situation that we're living in now. And how you would grow now is very different to how you would grow 10 or 15 years ago. And using a template as your foundation is useful because it gives you that knowledge, that foundational knowledge for you to bring in other tutorials, bring in other knowledge, maybe even talk to people who are more knowledgeable about the subject that you're wanting to particularly grab onto. And maybe you can spend that energy and time to talk to someone for that hour to be able to, again, you have the knowledge and that foundational knowledge from these templates, these rules, these guides, these tools, to then be able to be better informed once you go to, say, a networking event, or you go to a seminar, or maybe you take an online course. Whatever it may be, use these to your advantage as the foundational knowledge that they are. These aren't the be-all and end-all. These aren't a thing that is going to bend and break your business. It is okay to take parts from one tool and take parts from another tool if it is going to help you and help you grow. And if not, then that's okay. Let it go. You're not hurting anyone by not using the tool. And especially with a lot of lead magnet or people that I work with, they've got your email address and maybe they might be the right fit in the future. And if not, that's okay. You can just unsubscribe. The transaction has occurred. And as I mentioned before, not everything will work for every situation. So it's okay to bend and break to make it fit you. So hopefully for today's podcast, you've gotten a little bit of an idea of my mentality when it comes to guides and templates. I have a very large list of templates and guides that I'm currently working on uploading to my website to have it be available for people to be able to break down these large concepts when it comes to marketing and be able to break down these thoughts about where do I begin, where do I start, how do I even begin to grow a personal brand, Zoe? Well, you don't think about yourself. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. I will finish up today. And if you are interested in joining me for any mentoring or any coaching regarding growing your personal brand, you can always hit me up at vcc.training. Have a beautiful week. I'll see you next week. Understanding your ideal customers through questions. Welcome to the Video Confidence Coach cast with your host, the Video Confidence Coach, me, Zoe Wood. I would like to pay my respects to the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation, the traditional custodians and owners on the land on which I conduct my business. Always will be Aboriginal land. I apologize for my tongue twisters there. So today we are going to discuss understanding your ideal customers. And what I mean by this, and there's a lot of buzzwords today that I'm going to make sure, and I'm going to do my best to clarify for those who are not in the marketing spaces, or any information for you who maybe have just stumbled upon this podcast today. Essentially, your ideal customers, as you can probably imagine by the title itself, is the customers. So these are people who are going to buy from you. And the people who are ideal customers are people who are either going to be raving fans. They love what you do. They love the message. They love the products. They love the services. And whenever they see an email from you, they're going to probably buy from you within the next, 24 to 48 hours. These are the ideal customers. And of course, everyone that you work with or that you cater to in your small business or in your personal brand, again, these are what these customers for. Your ideal customers are just a small segment of a much larger group of people when it comes to marketing, but it also comes to business decisions as well. I work with plenty of clients and also customers. For me, they're both interchangeable. There is discernible difference, but again, clients, customers, kind of the same thing for me and for today's discussion. And the reason that I bring this up is because when you understand who you are targeting and why you are targeting these specific group of people, this then help in turn, my words are going a bit weird. This will then help you do a number of factors. And I'm not just talking marketing here. I'm talking in regards to brand decisions, to business decisions as a whole. Because at the end of the day, the customers are the ones that pay you. These are the people who are going to put in the work to pay from you, to follow you, to listen to you, to leave comments and engage with you. And I thank you, MD, for your comments on our LinkedIn live stream today. These are the people who are going to engage with you and can continue to engage with you. So those are the type of people that you want to attract, which in turn impacts your marketing, which then in turn impacts your business direction and the decisions that you make. Because even though, for example, I work with a lot of sole traders or people who are building their personal brand, which in turn means that I'm dealing with a lot of people who are also the face of their brand or also the ones working behind the scenes. It's slightly easier to be able to focus on your ideal customer because you haven't got multiple people trying to sway the conversation. So when it comes to identifying your identifying these customers, usually it comes in a couple of ways. First way is because you've worked with people like this in either the past or you're currently working with them in your business. You know, hey, this particular type of person, I love working with them. They are easy to work with. They pay on time. They listen to what I have to say. They do their best to follow my advice, or they take the products, or they rave about us online. These are the type of people that I want to bring on. And I know this because I have worked with them. I have engaged with them. I have spoken with them, and I have asked questions. You see where we're going with today's podcast. And these things, and of course, I'm going to get into the types of questions you will ask your customers. And of course, this will require you to reach out to them, to talk to them, and to maybe get feedback from them on a regular basis. And of course, not every single customer, especially ideal, is going to have the time nor energy to be able to respond to you all the time. And that is okay. Dealing with rejection is okay. It's not you, it's them. It's also a case of this is there to benefit you. And for some people and for some businesses, giving you their money should be enough. And again, I'm not saying that to discredit you or anything that you have going on. I'm just saying that a lot of people, when they buy from a company, they're less likely to open up the feedback emails or provide any feedback of any kind because they're just busy. They're just busy doing the things that you have told them to do or are following the advice that you have given them. So these particular questions usually revolve around customer traits. So customer traits are essentially what are the actions that they are doing, which are then leading them to either seek you out or buy from you or take your information for later when they need to contact you. So say, for example, we've recently had some plumbing issues. And of course, I rent. So most of these issues are being dealt with by the real estate agent who is managing the property. But if I was, say, owned my property, I wonder when that will happen, but if it does, I will need to have an emergency plumber on hand. I don't necessarily need them all the time, but I would like to have that on hand so whenever something goes wrong, I can pick up the phone, boop, 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 boop. Hi, something's gone wrong, toilet's exploded, please come help. Like, I'm able to make that decision. I don't necessarily need to engage them straight away, but I've got that knowledge in my back pocket. Now, of course, this is an action of someone who is diligent. Is this the type of ideal customer trait that you want to have on board for your customers? Or is your company or the business that you do more in league of people who are at that breaking point? People who are beyond the point of educating themselves, or this may become an issue for you in the future. They've gone straight to, this is a problem now, I need it to be fixed. Go through, like, Google what I need to find out, bam, boom, give me the answer now. Is that the type of customer that you're wanting to work with? Or is this very much relates to trend adoption or risk tolerance? So risk tolerance is essentially what is their level of risk in regards to, for example, when it comes to, say, purchasing from a fashion brand, some people's risk tolerance are very low. Like, they're willing to buy, they're willing to spend $150 on a pair of shoes or a set of clothes. And if they don't like it, they'll return it back. Their risk tolerance is very low because they don't really care too much. Compared to some people who their risk tolerance may be very high because their income or their budget that they have set for clothes is very limited. So they want to do as much research as they can to make sure that they are following the trends, but of whatever you're focusing on, but also, or of the industry as a whole. But also they want to research to make sure that they're making the right decision. And this in turn will then, as you can imagine, impact how you market your company, which then will in turn impacts the decisions that you're making with your company. So say, for example, a good example of this is someone who I worked with in the past who did life coaching. And as you can imagine, life coaching is a highly unregulated industry. There's a lot of people who have great experiences, but there's also a large amount of people who have bad experiences. And the way that you combat this is via testimonials, via reviews, via actual living proof human beings who are showcasing that, hey, talking with this person for 12 months on a regular basis gave me the courage and knowledge to be able to pursue my dreams. Now, of course, again, life coaches are not therapists. I want to stress that. Life coaching is not therapy. I want to stress that. But this then in turn impacts your marketing because, okay, the type of person that is my ideal client, their risk tolerance is fairly like medium to high. So in turn, I need to make sure I invest in getting testimonials from my clients, making sure that I get raving reviews, make sure that I can show the growth of people before they met me and then after they worked with me, making sure that you get proof of this. In turn, put that on your website, put that in your email list, then maybe trickle that down to social media. And then in turn, this then dictates the processes on, say, for example, when you finish up with a client, one thing I highly recommend is ask for reviews. Ask for, and if they don't want to give you a review, make sure you get feedback from them. They don't have to put it publicly, just to get any sort of feedback on how you can improve to make things better for people like them. And that in turn, it dictates how you're going to run the company, on how you're going to make sure that, hey, how is this online and what can I do to boost my reputation? Now, of course, that is one example out of 1,000 that I could possibly give you today. And what I also discussed before was trend adoption. So, for example, your business may not be, very much into the trend cycles, like, for example, with fashion or anything that is cyclical regarding, say, for example, heaters and then air conditioning units on like alternate sides of, seasons, I should say, particularly. And this adoption with your particular customer audience is going to change depending on how likely are they to take an offer that you have. So say, for example, there's, a good example, and I'm sure we have many of these people in our lives, the Apple fanboys, people who absolutely love Apple and everything that they do. These people are what is known as trend adopters. They are early trend adopters. As soon as Apple even smidges mentions something that they are going to release, boom, on board, they are going to take it, they're going to grab it, and they're going to hold it in their pretty little hands. That is what is known as early adopters. And then you have people who are about mid adopters who see what the early adopters are doing, see the pros and cons, and then make an educated decision and then purchase or not purchase, depending. And then you have people who are in the trend cycle, waiting till it is absolutely saturated in the market before they make a decision. Say, for example, people who are maybe the parents of when their kids were on Facebook. And now, for example, following the Facebook trend, then the late adopters. These are people who, for example, your grandparents are now on Facebook, and all the young people have left Facebook because the early adopters, again, the kids, have left because it's not cool anymore. But then this in turn impacts how you're going to market yourself, but also, as I mentioned already, how you're going to direct your business. The importance of gathering this information and creating these personas. So again, personas and avatars are very much in the same realm of the type of audience that you have in mind, the type of customer that you have in mind, being able to answer these questions and put them into the type of person. For example, Coca-Cola has 36 of these, up to 165 different types of people that are going to regularly buy their product. So in turn, they can then market themselves slightly differently because they are an international company. But for you, starting off with just one marketing persona, being able to have a really clear idea of what, the risk tolerance is, what their trend adoption is, how likely it is, say, for example, if you are going to offer something to them, how long realistically you would have to wait to make sure the sales come in. So say, for example, if you've got someone, if your particular market is very high risk, like risk tolerant, is really high, like they need a lot of proof, then in turn you need to have a really long window before you say release either a product or a service or a course or something like that. You need to make sure that you prove along the way that, hey, we've tested it on multiple people and multiple, we've tested it on a lot of people. We've got great reviews from all of these people and very little negative feedback. We have made sure that this product is flexible, that we've got payment plans. Like, again, whatever you need, you know this because you have asked them questions regarding their preferences and behaviors and motivations, and also just what you can see online. And of course, you can get these trends from ASIC. You can get like really big demographic trends, and I can do another podcast about that, of where to find these large, big demographic information. But when it comes to yourself, especially if you are a solo business owner or you are just growing your own personal brand, either as a side hustle or as, something that you're doing while working on a business that generates you money, then being able to have and grow this knowledge that you have about your particular target audience, or maybe even just following the type of people that you think are a good fit for your company, being able to follow them, maybe even friend them either on, say, LinkedIn or Instagram. Again, do not stalk these people, but have a better idea of, hey, these, for example, this particular person that I think is a really good fit for my custom avatar goes on holidays once a year around this time. Cool, I'll keep that in mind. So for example, when I release something in the future, maybe I don't do it around this time of year because they're all going on holiday. And then less likely to purchase something from me before we go on holiday because I am something that helps them with their workflow and their business as opposed to them going on holiday mode. Again, these are very broad decisions that you're making, but these in turn will help you guide these bigger decisions regarding your marketing and your business direction. Knowing this information, and of course, this is something that is consistently worked on over time. You meet people who are in your ideal customer demographic at networking events, and you find them, you lock onto them, and you have a chat. And you're able to ask more and more questions of these people, the more people that you bring on board, because you know who you're aiming for. And the significance of considering these type of customers are whether they are early adopters or more cautious, as I mentioned before, and also how they can impact the marketing messages and tactics that you use to reach them. Because at the end of the day, we are doing this for them. We are doing it for the customers who need to know more about you because you are the solution to their problem. And sometimes they don't even realize they have the problem, or they need to be educated on why the problem can get worse without your help or your solution. And you're not going to get everyone. But if you have this, again, a good starting place of something like a customer avatar or an ideal persona, or just, again, this information of who exactly am I talking to, why am I talking to them, and how can I solve their problem? Are they going to be receptive more in the morning than they are at night? This and then in turn impacts how you're going to do email marketing, for example. If you are going to invest in something into your website, are they more likely the person who's going to take a quiz, like a cute, like 10 question quiz because they're from the BuzzFeed generation, for example? Or are they more likely to be the person who wants immediate results from, say, a survey or something like that? Again, you can do this to grow your community and grow the type of ideal customers that you have on board, but you still need to reach out to them and to have these questions and knowledge regarding what the actual answers mean is something that you need to work on. Hopefully work with me, but also you can work with other marketing professionals. Because if anyone who you come across who works in marketing who doesn't put the customer first is a big red flag, you should step aside and just leave them to it. Because they may be, for example, someone who's worked in marketing for a long time, or someone who's fallen into marketing and they're very good at, say, the graphic design element. They're not very good at the whole businessy side of marketing. And that is okay. I am, to be honest, quite shit at both. But that's why I constantly work on it. I regularly invest in new courses to brush up on my knowledge and to do my best to be there for my customers and to listen to their queries and their quips as they have them, because that's why I'm there. I'm there to help and serve them. So ultimately, at the end of the day, asking who the type of people that you want to work with and the type of questions that you want to ask are about their trend adoption. How are they when are they likely to take you on board? And also, how risk averse are they, and as to whether or not you need to provide more information leading up to any sort of launch in your business. I wish you all the best. And if you are interested in coming to me for the coaching or marketing strategy, as I mentioned throughout this podcast episode, feel free to reach out to me at vcc.training. I apologize if my words have been a little bit skewed today. It is getting quite hot in here and my words are slurring. I promise everything is okay. It has just been a month, a year, a week, and we're not done yet. But I'm here to help you and to serve you, and I wish you all the best. Bye. Thank you everyone who joined us today for the Video Confidence Connect. And again, if you're watching on the replay, #replay, feel free to reach out in the comments. I do my best to respond to everyone. Thank you so much to MD for commenting in today's live stream over on LinkedIn. And I hope everyone enjoys. And feel free to subscribe to me on YouTube as well as LinkedIn, where I do these once a week, 10 to 11. On every Friday. I do my best to. Of course, last week was an anomaly because public holidays and commitments. God love family. I thank you all again for your patience and wish you all the best for the upcoming weekend and week ahead. See you next week where we'll discuss more about everything that we do. Love you. Bye.